This podcast will help get you ready for the Chapter 9 quiz coming up this week. Make sure you have your study guide out. It will help you out and write down anything you need to change. First of all, for the vocab words, go over it with a friend or a family member. Have them read the words to you and you tell them the definitions, or you can tell them the definition, or they tell you the definitions and then you tell them the words. Both ways actually will help you out because the questions can be both ways on the quiz. Also, making flashcards can always be a helpful thing too to help remember those vocab words. Now, for the concepts, the first one was ways to reduce waste. The first one is to reduce it, which basically just means use less materials. Then we can also do recycling, which is reclaiming the base materials to make something new out of them. So we can take something like aluminum cans, melt down the aluminum, and remake new cans with it. That is recycling. And there's finally reusing. This is using it again for the same purpose or something that you can do to it without changing it very much. So for example, we're going to be using shoe boxes for a project in 6th grade, and that would be an example of reuse. We're not necessarily using it for the same purpose, but we don't have to do anything to modify it to use it for the next use for it. There are 3 ways that we use land and why they are used that way. That is the next topic. First use is agriculture. This is used to grow food crops. This also includes farm animals in there as well. Mining, which is when we remove valuable minerals from the ground. And so that's in order to get coal or gold or any kind of other metals that we use. There are 2 ways we do this. There's what's called strip mining. That's used for getting materials that are just underneath the surface. They actually strip away the surface, strip away all the dirt. And that's where you get the big open pit mines. And there's also underground mining. That's where they mine for minerals deep underground. That's more of like how they get the coal out of the mountains in Pennsylvania, for example. And finally, there's development. And that's where we construct buildings, bridges, and roads. So for example, your house is part of a development. That is something where it's basically for us to use to do other activities in. I'm not sure why I had when different was there. I figured out it shouldn't have been there. I think I just typed it wrong. Sorry about that. The next one was forms of air pollutants, including indoors and outdoors. The first ones we're going to look at are the indoor pollutions. That includes carbon monoxide, which is a colorless, odorless gas from incompletely burning different fuels. So for example, when you are burning wood, you actually get carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is the more poisonous of the gases. Carbon dioxide is the gas that's released when fossil fuels are completely burned. And so it's actually a fuel, or that's actually a normal byproduct, and so that's actually what we are trying to get. And also remember is things that they're also released, like for example when we exhale. There's also the different outdoor pollutants, and chlorofluorocarbons, they actually can fall as an indoor pollutant as well because we find them indoors, but it's a bigger concern because it's a banned chemical that destroys the ozone layer and it's no longer used. And then also carbon dioxide, or CO2, that shows up as a pollutant coming from the cars and trucks and different transportation. There's also several other noxious gases, is what they're referred to. They're nitrogen containing, that fall in the same category. Forms and issues with water pollution is the next topic. That includes point source, which you can think of, can you can just point right at it, versus non-point source, where you can't point at it. And the major sources include mining, agriculture, and sewage. Those are 3 major sources that can show up as being forms of water pollution. The next topic then is forms and issues with land pollution and its usage. The first one on there is landfills, and basically we figured out that we need to use liners to help protect the groundwater. We saw that we used an impermeable barrier, which in our case was the trash bag, to help protect the groundwater from getting the red sewage or the red leachate inside it. And so it's always a beneficial way to help protect the ground. And so it's important that landfills always need liners to help protect the ground. There's also the concern of desertification, which is land that's been made unusable from the soil becoming too dry and unfertile. Remember, fertile means that you can grow stuff, so if it's unfertile, it cannot grow anything. And so desertification is when it becomes pretty much useless to us as far as normal purposes of agriculture. And there's also, goes along with this, is the idea of land reclamation. This is actually where we return land to a more natural state. They bring it back to a way that nature can retake it over. Some examples of that would be that we saw last chapter was like the sustainable forestry. That's actually a form of land reclamation, returning it to a more natural state. Same thing with strip mining. After they finish, they fill the hole back in and then plant grass and trees on there. That's considered land reclamation. The last topic was global warming, what it is, why scientists think it is happening, and what's causing it. Global warming is the gradual increase in Earth's temperature. Scientists think that it's coming from the release of greenhouse gases from different industries that we have, such as cars and our power plants that release lots of greenhouse gases. And those include carbon dioxide and other gases like that. Remember, the greenhouse gas is any gas that can help trap heat in the atmosphere. Some of the possible effects from this then are, for example, the sea level could rise. Because if it's getting warmer, then of course the ice caps are melting, and that means that the water level will go up. There's also droughts and desertification, because if the water levels are going up, you remember that we saw that sea breezes and how sea and land breezes form because water warms up and cools down more slowly than land does. That means that we also can then see that the climate patterns can change. Of course, if we have droughts and desertification, that means there's also been changes to the biosphere, which is where animals live at. And so if the area where, for example, a bird lives at becomes a desert, the bird's not going to be able to find food anymore. And so they're going to have to move. And of course, if we're seeing these droughts and desertification, odds are we're also seeing a change in temperature as well, because it usually follows along with that. So this wraps up the Chapter 9 quiz review. A couple final notes. Remember to study your notebook. Look over your claims and evidence. They're always extremely helpful for this. And remember, there are always application questions on the quiz, and so you'll need to be ready to take care of those. If you have any questions, you can ask them on My Big Campus or during class. Good luck.